All right, in the interest of time, we'll go on and get started this evening. I'm Meredith Martin, Deputy Director of Budget and Performance Management at the City of Winston-Salem. I want to welcome you all tonight to the February ARPA Community Engagement Meeting. I also have with me the Director of Budget and Performance Management, Scott Tesh, and we also have Councilmember John Larson with us tonight. So with that, I will share my screen and we'll go on and jump in. So just quickly, we are going to review tonight the framework recovery grants program that's currently going on right now, as well as the transformational phase, which is the next phase of ARPA funding. So right now on the screen, you can see the ARPA framework. This is the initial framework that was established by City Council and staff as a guide of utilizing the ARPA funding that was available. The top portion of the table illustrates what's already been approved by the mayor and city council. This includes community violence intervention programming, premium pay and vaccination incentives for city employees, eviction diversion programming, as well as the recovery grants program, which we'll touch on here momentarily. Future phases of ARPA funding include housing investments, social and economic assistance, addressing the digital divide, as well as the restoration of city reduced revenues. So the recovery grants program, this program falls into the first federal objective of the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. These grants are for 3 entity types, which include small businesses, social service nonprofits, and travel, tourism, hospitality, and arts nonprofits. The goal is to provide assistance to those that have been negatively impacted by the pandemic, especially those that are in arrears or behind on mortgage, rent, lease, and utility payments. So this process and application process is open right now. It opened on January 18th and will remain open through Friday, which is February 18th. The United Way is administering these funds. You can access the application and more information at www.forsythunitedway.org/2022 CLFRF grant application. We are also having an in-person opportunity to apply for these funds through Sprague Street Community Center and their technology lab at that recreation center. That will take place tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I will be there, as well as some representation from the United Way to ensure, just to assist anyone who needs help completing that application process. So going into the transformational phase, which is the next phase that City Council and staff are looking at as far as ARPA funding. This phase, the city is seeking to move the needle on key components of the city's strategic plan, which trigger a profound ripple effect of positive and multidimensional changes. So how this process will work, minimum eligibility for this process would be a nonprofit organization that has a current 501c3 status. They also must be current active status to conduct business for at least 1 year prior to the request for proposals being released. The application will be available via the Neighborly platform, which various city departments currently use for various community agency processes. And the application will follow the scoring matrix, which we will get into momentarily. The application review process will take place in a few phases. The first will be the preliminary review, just ensuring that you are a 501c3 with the current active status to conduct business, as well as ensuring that all the required documentation is attached to the application. The next phase of the review, if all of those criteria are met, you'll move on to the next phase of review, which is the core review, where your application will be scored based on the scoring matrix. Once the scores are developed, they will be tiered and presented to City Council for review and approval. So to get into the scoring matrix here, there are weighted scores. 20% of the score is based on organization capacity and the implementation plan. This is the entity's ability to implement the proposal that they are illustrating within the application. 15% goes towards geographic and demographic factors. Are you serving a QCT or a qualified census tract or an area similar to a QCT? 15% is based on alignment to the specific strategic plan priorities, which are tiered, and that's a plan that the City Council had put together and will be approved hopefully on Monday night. 15% of the score is related to short-term and long-term impacts to community needs. So will the proposal move the needle in making positive change to our community? 10% is based on collaboration and stakeholder partnerships. The city wants to ensure that we're making a large impact and not duplicating funding to multiple programs. 10% will go to funding sustainability. ARPA funding is a one-time thing, and so we want to ensure that whatever program is being proposed has long-term financial stability, and that the organization making the proposal has identified possible funding sources for the future of that program. 10% will be based on administration and reporting, so the ability for the entity to meet the requirements related to being a subrecipient for reporting based on these funds. And the final 5% will be based on the board representation and does the leadership of the entity match our community. So to give you kind of an overview of where we go from here with this phase, City Council has reviewed this week during committees. It will go to City Council Monday night for final approval. With that approval, staff plans to open the application process in March and send out the request for proposals. The applications will be open for a month, and so they will close in April when application review will begin. Ideally, staff hopes to bring City Council the tiered proposals for review in May. However, in speaking with some of our peer jurisdictions, 200 to 300 applications have been received. And so depending on that number of applications, it may take a little longer than a month, but that's our tentative timeline for now. Finally, if you need information on ARPA, any information or updates, please visit the cityofws.org/CLFRF. Our next engagement session is Thursday, March 17th at noon. We're trying to change the times and dates from month to month to ensure everyone has an opportunity to participate. Again, my name is Meredith Martin, and that's my email address. All this will be posted online following the meeting, so most likely tomorrow. But that's the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to open it up to any questions that our participants have. Councilmember Larson.
Thank you. You know, I stay quiet. Could you go back to the qualifications page with the percentages of the categories that are going to be used for evaluating? And let me just make some clarity on those issues.
Yeah.
I think for those of us who are not as much familiar with some of these terms and issues, perhaps they need to understand a qualified census tract and income-based, what that actually means and how they would know whether they were qualified under that category or not. What would be the mechanism for them to get to that information?
So we do have a website, and it's actually currently linked to the recovery grants process as well, where you can enter an address to determine if you are in a QCT. So that helps, and that can also illustrate on a map visually what the QCTs are, and that can help you determine if you're serving those constituents.
So that goes to the portal to that, or the link to that is where? Meredith? That with
It's on our website, and I'll make sure it's on the cityofws.org/CLFRF website as well.
That would be good for those that are applying specifically to be able to go that one stop and make sure they understand what that means.
Yes, sir.
The strategic plan, the same thing. I doubt that anybody out there has read our strategic plan, and it's going to take a little while to get through that maybe. So I assume that could be posted on that same site to allow people to get to that fairly quickly.
Yes, sir.
The matter of board representation matching community demographics, do we give that census data somewhere, that the percentage of various racial relationships or whatever percentages? Is that information, again, if that's going to be a evaluation category, do we provide them some benchmark that we're looking for on that?
The scoring matrix will go, so with the application, we will actually show the scoring matrix, and it will say how you can essentially check all the boxes to get all the points available for each category. Right. And so it clearly defines that.
It'll define what those percentages are that you'll be looking for.
Yes, sir. Let me stop sharing. And the full scoring matrix is on our agenda website, on our webpage, as part of Finance Committee's agenda, and will be part of Monday night's agenda. But let me see if
we've seen that. That would be useful.
Mm-hmm. I'll see if I can pull that up.
I'll chime in really quickly while Meredith is doing it, and say that Councilmember Larson, a lot of the questions that you're asking are going to be introductory materials to the application itself. So when you get into the portal, it's going to say, here's the scoring matrix, click here to see it. Here's the strategic plan, click here to see that. That qualified census tract link will be on there with a definition, not only of where those QCTs are, but why we're using them per the federal definitions and how HUD determines QCTs. So I think you'll see a lot of kind of introductory information to the application that will address a lot of those questions as people click into it.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is likely very small on most of your screens, but again, this will be very much available, and staff and the city trying to be very transparent in what we're looking for and how to achieve scores. But you can see how to receive 0 points, 3 points, or 5 points. And so based on representation, there's some specific guidelines. And then moving further into, these are kind of like an overview, just a quick snapshot. But if you want even more detail, there's further detail as far as the scoring guide, the definition of the category, and again, what we're looking for each scoring category. And I know this is very small on your screens right now, but it will be available as part of the application. So I've received a question. Is it possible to see the application for the March round without logging in and walking through it? So currently the application is not available to be seen. However, potentially as part of our March engagement, but definitely prior, either to the day of opening or prior to the opening of the transformational phase, staff will hold an orientation type meeting, and that meeting will walk through the application, again, walk through the scoring and how the scoring relates to each question within the application, and essentially give you the steps of how to apply for funds. So I hope that answers that question. Yes, I have design by Cassandra Michelle.
Thank you. Cassandra, do you mind sharing the scoreboard or what Councilman Larson asked you to share previously?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Are you wanting me to pull it?
Is for, yeah, well, let me see if I can do it without.
No, you can go ahead and ask, please.
Well, I don't know actually where it was under. It could have been under funding sustainability. Did you mention there that the objective is to be certain that the money is being spread across multiple disciplines and not saturated in one particular area?
So I kind of touched on that with the collaboration piece.
Oh, the collaboration piece. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We want to ensure that we're not funding duplicate services. We're funding various services throughout the community to make sure we're really helping make positive change within the community. So that's kind of the collaboration piece. We're wanting agencies that are doing very similar things to try to work together to make it better and a larger impact to our community. The funding sustainability piece is more geared towards providing information that you have ideas for funding the program in the future once ARPA funding is no longer available.
Okay, I think my question would be more on the collaboration and the stakeholder partnership side of that. But you mentioned something now that that raised another question for me. So is that particularly for the agencies that are providing funding to businesses, or would that be the businesses themselves that you're trying to diversify, make sure the funds get to different services?
Can you ask that one more time? I'm sorry. I mean,
sure. So are you speaking of, when you're talking about collaboration with the city, are you speaking of the agencies that are being a conduit to the businesses? Like, are you funding Greater Winston Inc. with funds to then disperse for businesses?
We would be looking for proposals in that area where, and I can pull this up.
Or are you speaking directly to, like me, I'm a business, a small business that would have applied for this loan. So are you speaking to?
So it's more towards any of the agencies working together. So
right, that's what I was asking. Yeah, is that for the agencies or for the businesses that you're trying to?
It's for the agencies, and I'm going to look to Mr. Tesh. Okay. Looks like he may have unmuted.
Yeah, Meredith, let me jump in here for a second. So we do have the two processes that are open. One is the current process that's open for small businesses and nonprofits that we're doing up to $25,000 in grant funding. What we're looking at now is the nonprofit process that would open later next month. Small businesses would not be able to apply directly through this process. So it would be for nonprofit institutions only. So for instance, if Greater Winston-Salem Inc. or the Black Chamber of Commerce or someone like that were to submit an application, they would become a subrecipient with the city. We would be looking for them, honestly, to collaborate together. We would be looking for Greater Winston-Salem Inc. to work with the Black Chamber, to work with the Forsyth Tech Small Business Center, and really get all of those stakeholders together to propose a program for funding where they would help multiple other entities underneath them to the extent eligible by law.
Perfect. That's it. Okay. So now I wonder if I should have been on this call. Is this is this call for the 25,000 for the small businesses or for the nonprofits?
This kind of touches on both because that's a process that's actually going on right now and ends Friday. Okay. So if you have any questions related to that, we're happy to answer those.
No, I think that cleared up when you were going through that one. I was thinking that my business actually, well, never mind. That's a thought that maybe I can email you later about. Scott actually cleared that other idea up for me, and I appreciate that. Appreciate both of you. Thank you.
For Cassandra's bit, you might give her the guidelines as to what the qualifications are currently for the size of business involved and the workshop that held tomorrow if she wants to get involved. There's time limit. There's a very limited amount of time for her to get an application in if she's eligible.
No, actually, Councilman, I've already submitted.
Okay, good.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I was notified that we have a question through YouTube. How is word getting out to nonprofits other than our website related to these programming methods? We have we're working with our marketing department to get the word out. For the recovery grants process, we sent out postcards. We've had radio ads and a full marketing campaign. And then moving forward through the transformational phase, we will conduct similar marketing strategies. We've also, the other item, we have a list of nonprofits that have already reached out to us that we've been sending information to, as well as using some partners to notify other nonprofits within their listservs. So we've been trying to spread the word as much as possible to make sure our community is aware of all of these opportunities. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, I am not going to hold you all up, but I'm going to share my screen with my contact information. If any of you want to email me and reach out with questions offline, I am happy to help however I can. Please do so. And if we don't see you before, hopefully we'll see you March 17th for our noon engagement session. Thank you all.